Earlier in the program, we were talking with Nathan Lindsay up at SFU, staging a sit-in to draw attention to the fact that, in his opinion, he's a gender studies student at the university, that he doesn't believe SFU is very progressive when it comes to gender-neutral washrooms. And it's fascinating to me because it's a story that comes up over and over, and it seems to be one of the key, at least public issues with trans people. Which bathroom do they use, and in which bathroom do they feel the most safe? Joining us now for more on this is Dara Parker. We've had Dara on several times to talk about queer issues, gay, lesbian issues. Dara, nice to see you.
Nice to see you, Jill.
What do you think of the sit-in up at SFU and potentially where SFU is in all of this as far as being accepting of trans people?
What I think of the sit-in, I thought they were quite creative. They got quite punny with their title,
Yeah.
And so I think that caught a few headlines, which was nice.
It was an S-H-I-T-in, so I'm not saying it out loud, but yes.
Neither am I, Jill.
Yeah.
Neither am I. But that was nice. And what do I think about SFU in terms of their stance on gender issues and queer issues? I don't spend a lot of time at SFU, so I don't have my thumb on the pulse. I know that universities are often hotbeds of activism that are pushing boundaries and leading conversations on topics like this, so generally ahead of the curve. And I think that's evidenced by the protest that's happening. And I think, frankly, most folks aren't doing very well when it comes on gender-neutral washrooms specifically. I have a colleague who is doing her PhD at SFU, and she was surprised when this story came out because her experience is that SFU is more progressive than other environments, and yet I can guarantee you, I know because of this protest, that there are lots of binary washrooms, and that's a huge barrier, not just for trans folk either. I like to remind people that a lot of us get policed in terms of our gender and how we present, and so it's not exclusively a trans issue. My partner doesn't mind when I share her story. She's a cisgender woman, which means that her sex assigned at birth matches her gender identity. She was born a woman and she identifies as a woman. And I think she reads as very feminine. But she gets probably approached once a month going into the washroom and sort of like has had people physically grab her shoulder and pull her back because they feel like they know which washroom she should be going into, which is kind of nuts. So I think a lot of us get policed in public space because of how we read, how we present, our body language, our choice of clothes, the sound of our voice, and that needs to stop.
Okay, so help me understand this, because this is what I love about you, is you're super easy to talk to and very frank on these issues. So is your partner then trying to go into the women's bathroom?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
So she's a woman trying to go into the women's washroom and like regularly gets stopped and, you know, said, oh, you're going to the wrong space, or hey, what are you doing here? And then sometimes they realize, like taking a second look at her, that, oh, this is a woman. But frankly, why is somebody questioning that in the first place? I think that my partner is the expert in knowing where she should go to the washroom.
Well, and that's exactly what Nathan Lindsay said to us, is, hey, everybody, stop asking people why they're in this bathroom. They've picked this bathroom, and so let's assume that they know which bathroom they should be in. I'd like you to help me understand this. So Bruce Jenner now, obviously, has made, and it's a bit of a gong show. I feel bad for him, because so much of the coverage is salacious, but at the same time, I think it's also brought it out into the public realm. I mean, he's been on the cover of Us several times, and I'm still calling him a he because I haven't heard from his lips that he wants to be a she and is going by a female name. But we've gone so far in for so many years accepting sort of the gay, lesbian, bi, and I think we've seen so many women who are lesbians who look like men, who dress like men, who have men's haircuts. So help me out. In another lifetime, if it were more acceptable, would they be calling themselves trans?
It's a great question, and there's no easy answer. Sorry, Jill. As easy as I am to talk to you, this isn't simple. You know, gender is fluid, sexuality is fluid. People collate those two concepts often. So when we see someone who doesn't conform, so that sort of butch-appearing woman that wears men's clothes, has shorter hair, walks in, you know, a style that we understand as male, we might read them as a lesbian, we might read them as a man, and the truth is, it could be either, right? It's very unique to the person. And so I think as trans issues rise to the forefront, we're seeing more and more folks come out as trans. I suspect there's not an increase in trans people. It's just becoming safer to have the conversation, and there are systemic changes happening where people can access the healthcare they need to be who they are. So, I know some folks in my community who first identified as a lesbian and then actually identified as a trans man. But I also know lots of butch lesbian women who are still butch lesbian women, and their gender identity isn't in question. And they still don't conform to our expectation of what it looks like to be a woman.
We're shocked by this situation of racist behavior on the subway in Paris, a black man trying to get on a subway, and I thought, oh my gosh, here we are talking about gender-neutral bathrooms, and we still see white-black racism happening on the planet in such a, what should be a country where they get it, they at least understand it. How long do you think it's going to take before we've got this figured out, or will we ever have the issue of gender neutrality, or not worrying about exactly what gender people are?
The good news is I think we're making progress, right? We're talking about it. We have these conversations. I think the advancements in the gay lesbian movement, are 20 years ahead of the trans movement. But both sexual orientation and gender identity challenge our fundamental concept of gender, like what it means to be a girl, what it means to be a boy. So for me, it's exciting. We're moving in the right direction. When will we be done? I don't know, Jill, you and I might not be there for that. I mean, this is deeply entrenched learning, right? When's the first time that you start asking gender questions for a new child? It's not even when they're born. It's actually, when a woman is pregnant, one of the most common questions that people ask is, do you know the sex? Do you know? So this kind of conditioning is happening before the child is even born. And the reason they ask these questions, my mom and I have this conversation all the time because she always wants to know the sex of the baby when my friends are having children. And she's like, well, how do you know what clothes to buy them? Or like how to paint the room, or, what toy. So gendering happens at such an early age that it's going to be really difficult to undo those learnings, but I still think we're moving in the right direction.
We just got to get away from the strict pink or blue thing and we'll be fine.
Yeah, or, I don't even have a problem with pink or blue, right? Like if girls like pink, great, let's create space for boys to like pink as well, right? I think for me, it's not about creating gender neutrality that everybody needs to be dressed in greens and yellows, right? For the baby showers where you don't know the sex of the child. I think we just need to expand what's acceptable for gender in terms of how we perform and how we conform or don't conform. I wish there was more fluidity allowed in our expression and that we got less hung up on it. Like I think I can reflect on my own experiences. I've certainly been in a restaurant or at a community center where I've stared at someone and thought, like, what's their gender? Like, are they male or female? Male or female? And I don't know why I care. Like, this is a stranger across the room but we kind of get fixated on it, right? We are in this very binary world where it's like either or, black or white, dichotomous. And so, I challenge all of us to look at ourselves and be like, does it matter? Does it matter if I am able to identify them appropriately? Maybe if you're getting into a conversation with that person, but I think we get really hung up on gender in a way that we don't need to.
Dara Parker, Executive Director of QMUNITY, as always, thank you.